So you probably know this. Economists, there is actually a way to measure the pace of technology change in the economy. There's a way to measure it and put a number on it, and with related to everything, both the positives and negatives of technology change, including job replacement. And it's
Is this Paul Romer's work?
Productivity growth.
Okay.
Paul did a lot of work around this,
okay,
but the basic economic concept is productivity growth.
All right.
And productivity growth is a measure. It's the quantitative measure of technology change. There's a few other things that lump in, but fundamentally it's about technology change. And really, what it is it's a metric for how quickly an economy year over year is able to produce more output with less input, right? And you can go either way on that, but fundamentally that's the lever. And if technology can't, just the thought experiment, if technology can't be used to produce more output with less input, like what's the point, right? If it's not good at like bringing down jobs, or bringing down costs and increasing free spending power and increasing demand in the economy, then what's the point, right? It's just a game or something, right? And so productivity growth is the metric that captures the actual impact, and productivity growth therefore is the metric that captures, for example, the downstream impact on employment, either for good or for bad.
Right.
Another pop quiz: have we been if you look at the sweep of American history and sort of history of capitalism, history of Western capitalism, have in the last 50 years we've been living in an era of high productivity growth, which is to say an area of furious technological change and future shock, and oh my God, look at all these amazing things and what an impact they're having, or have we been living in an area actually of historically low productivity growth with very little progress?
Our friend Peter Thiel has persuaded me that it's the latter.
It's the latter. Well, it's for sure.
It is the latter.
It's for sure the latter because it's in the number. You can see it in the numbers.
It's demonstrable.
It's demonstrable. And so, and specifically what happened is basically between there's a long backstory here, but basically in recent history, between call it 1920 and 1970, that 50-year arc, productivity growth throughout the economy moved much faster, was 2 or 3 times higher. And then basically starting around the time I was born, right around 1971, basically it took a permanent downshift and it never recovered. And it wobbles a little bit during recessions. It ticks up a little bit because people get more efficient, but it's basically been generationally low now for 2 generations. And so
the whole game.
Yeah.
Excuse me. This comes to a question I was about to ask. When Ronald Reagan, again of that morning again in America, when Ronald Reagan took office, federal debt, the total federal debt as a proportion of GDP was about 32%.
Right.
Today, 126%.
Right.
The whole game
Yeah.
is going to be getting productivity growth up, correct?
You have to. Well, so you have to exactly. So you have to get productivity growth up because that's where economic growth comes from. Productivity growth is what causes economic growth.
Right.
The reason productivity growth causes economic growth is because if you can generate more with less, then you can take things today that cost $100 and then you can get them instead for $90, $80, $70, $60, and then the consumer or the business has additional spending power that they can use to buy new things. That is the mechanism of economic growth. Like
Right.
that is the actual mechanism for why economies grow or whether they don't grow. If productivity growth goes to zero, there is no growth. There is no economic growth. If productivity growth is high, you will have lots of job transformations. You will have lots of jobs being created and destroyed, but you will have a growing economy. And you will have basically an economic heyday in which there's opportunity everywhere. And people will look at it. And you've seen, there have been times like this. The mid-90s had a little bit of this. You remember, like, when there's a surge of economic growth, everybody, like, gets really cheerful. Well, that's as a consequence of productivity growth.
That morning again in America, what happened was that by 1983,
Right.
the stock market started to recover, and by 84, the economy itself is starting to grow and grow really briskly. I think 84, 85, the number was up to 6% for something like 8 months.
Right.
So
if you care about
people felt it.
That's right. And so if you care about the country and if you care about the people of the country, what you want is growth. You want economic growth. In order to get economic growth, you need productivity growth. Things are going to change, but you're going to have the growth such that people are optimistic and see lots of opportunity for themselves and for their children. The enemy is not technology-driven unemployment. The enemy is no growth. The enemy is no growth. The enemy is to end up where the UK and Germany and Canada have worked themselves into, which is no growth. Because what happens, and then you think about the translation from economics to politics, what happens
People start ripping themselves apart, ripping their countries apart.
Zero-sum politics.
Yes,
if you have
yes,
zero-sum
yes.
economics with no growth, you have to have zero-sum politics. Because the only way for anybody to get anything is to take it away from somebody else. In a high-growth environment, you have positive-sum economics, which means you have positive-sum politics. You have a sense of possibility and opportunity, right, and awakening and growth and excitement, right? And people are like, wow, this is fantastic, and I can't believe all the opportunities, and I can't believe how fast my standard of living is advancing, and I can't believe the jobs that are opening up to my kids. And so if we got, this is where the narrative on this goes so sideways, if we got what people think is the apocalyptic nightmare of rapid technological change, which is to say rapid productivity growth, we would have a boom economy like you've never seen, and we would have people be the happiest they've ever been in their entire lives. Like that is precisely what we should be going for. And by the way, anybody who's listening to this who's concerned about either left-wing populism or right-wing populism, this is the answer.
Right.
This is how you defang populism. The way you defang populism is you grow.
Okay, so I'm